Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the premiere episode of Outlander Season 7 Part 2, Unfinished Business. Ugh. So, I overall had an enjoyable time with this one. We focused pretty much on Jamie and Claire, on their kind of time period at Lollybrock and dealing with kind of all the different kind of stuff that they have to do there before setting up on their next part of their quest. And Roger is essentially pretty much doing this kind of side quest stuff. I mean, I hate to call it side quest stuff, but when reading about like the summary of what kind of goes on with this, I'm almost just like, I understand that it leads to a certain kind of closure and everything for like personally for him, but it's almost just like, why are we here doing this kind of thing? Because his stuff is really strangely integrated into this one. There is some crazy ass kind of editing where they're trying to do this thing of doing a fake out of being like, okay, this is when Roger actually is at this kind of point. So Roger's is the kind of smaller B kind of storyline, so I'll get to his stuff when it kind of is pertinent, and then just kind of explain what kind of goes on at the end. So we had last left off that Jamie and Claire were going back to Scotland for Simon Fraser's burial, and pretty much to deal with unfinished business and everything that was kind of going on there. So we kind of get the whole thing there. They get back home to Lollybrock, and of course Jamie's like, it's really hard to come home because you're different, and the home is different too, but not as much as you would think. Though we do get the new Jenny actress, which I have nothing against the actress. For some reason, the people at Starz are like, let's just bull on through. I understand trying to hold up for like one actor or trying to make sure that all schedules work out is a hard-ass thing. The logistics and the logistically kind of aspect of being like, we must do this. You have to have your logistically to work out the logistics of what's going on. But it's not the worst. I mean, it's not like they essentially got someone who's essentially a cardboard cutout and just feeling like, rah. But when you've been used to Jenny for going through all the different kind of seasons, it's just kind of like, oh, all right. It's kind of like the kid being like, I want McDonald's. We have McDonald's at home, and this is the McDonald's at home. But it's not like the worst case kind of scenario. It's not like, oh, you want a Big Mac, and then you get a fucking dog biscuit and a rat trying to eat you instead. No, it's not that kind of horrendous kind of thing. It's just like, oh, all right. And she does a serviceable job. There's just so... My issue is there is too much to be gone through content-wise for the books to adapt, and they kind of shortchange what's kind of going on with Jenny. I mean, we're dealing with Ian, senior Ian being sick, what's kind of going on with her sons and everything, because we get a lot of shit kind of going on. We see Jenny's Jamie. They're both Jenny's Jamie. How do I fucking describe this? Young Jamie. And everything kind of going on with him. Michael. There's a lot... who's doing well in France. God, what's going on? There's so much going on. One of them lost their wife. And it's just like, shit. And the thing is, we don't really set much on except for the wine business and everything going on. And Claire's like, I probably should tell them about like the French Revolution and shit, because they're talking about the American Revolution and France offering support and everything. It's like, oh, a good thing that something like that's going to happen in France. And she's like, I probably need to tell them and stuff. Jamie, of course, ruminated on how everything's kind of changed, seeing his friend Ian vastly sick. Young Ian being like, I've done so much shit, I should be here for when my father dies, pretty much. Talking about all the kind of shit that he's gone through and actually talking with his father. Out of all of it, Ian's aspect of it, talking to his father, actually talking to someone about his experiences, about his son with Emily, about his daughter and all that kind of stuff, and just pretty much trying to put the family kind of forward and first. That really kind of connected me with Ian, because his father's like, you should go and get this woman, Rachel, He's like, I didn't tell her my feelings, but she's got my dog, so she's at least gonna have to see me for that. And Leah's like, oh goddamn, dude. He's like, listen, don't have regrets on this kind of front. Go to her ass. And Ian's like, I'm just gonna send her this and tell her not to do it. And now, the great thing that this Jenny actress is able to do, she just rips that shit up and no, fuck that noise. Go get your boo. Showing that they actually have a gravestone for his daughter with both of her names, her Mohawk name, and Mother Isabel, that Ian had given her, was very nice and very touching, as they both ruminate over life and everything, as we see that young Ian does decide to go off. We see that Claire has been like, yeah, we kind of have to deal with this shit, and does unload everything and tells them about the French Revolution, and they're just like, very well. Alright, cool. And this is kind of where other kind of stuff kind of lines up. But before I go to that, let me hit this first, because Jamie's like, I gotta go see Leary. She's like, fine, but if you don't tell me who she's fucking, I'm gonna kill your ass. It's like, oh god. So we see that she, of course, is batshit crazy still. Like, I love... And then this kind of goes back to, like, season 1 and everything. But people are like, oh, it's puppy love, oh, it's teenage love. Leary is a great, perfect example of how that can be twisted into obsession and completely fuck over and stunt someone and turn them into just a fucking asshole for the entirety of their life. Because she's like, she does not let it go. She wants Jamie but cannot have him and cannot deal with those feelings. She is doing everything in the kitchen sink to pretty much keep his ass in check, and that, like, if he finishes the support and everything, she's got nothing. She's together with this Joey dude, who she's pretty much trying to, like, kick his ass. Well, not Joey, but Jamie, and then Joey pops up to kind of, like, help her, but she's like, oh, and it's just, let's just try and figure out how to fix this kind of situation, because Joni, Leary's other daughter, pops up, and like, I want to go and be a nun, but she won't release my dowry to let me go and fucking do that. But they have a kind of better kind of conversation with this as well, as they're kind of, I'm just paraphrasing this kind of stuff here, with what's kind of happening and going on with this. But Jamie decides to pretty much witness their marriage, gives Balrigan to Leary, gives some gold, and then, of course, Joni can be released off to become a nun and everything. And Jamie's not surprised, like, with how you've seen marriage and everything. I do not blame you for wanting to become a nun whatsoever. And that kind of goes off. We also see this kind of nice brother-sister moment with Jamie and Jenny, as Jenny's pretty much off screaming in the woods, being like, I can't deal with, like, all these changes and losing her husband and what she's gonna do. And Jamie's like, yeah, he'll leave, he'll die, but you'll go and you'll still do that. And it's like, you're taking for granted that she's like that strong one. Like, yeah, she'd do it, but she wouldn't be alright unless she's got the support there to be alright. You can't just let this person be your rock and not support that rock too. That's how rocks crumble. But he does support her, and having them have that kind of good brother-sister moment, that always touches me because of my connection with my sister as well. I always like it when it's well done and presented and executed, of, like, positive sibling relationships. I also don't mind it when there's, like, that clashing and everything that you kind of understand as brothers and sisters, but it's often played off that, like, it's the normal kind of thing for people to just fuck with each other as brothers and sisters, and it's like, there's a little bit of that, but if you're doing some of the crazy ass shit that kind of goes on with certain kind of things that's presented as kind of normal, I'm like, no, this kind of stuff, where you see that this person that you've grown up with, and sometimes it's taken you to task, and you've taken them to task, and you just support them, that's family. I'm like, I like that. So that was a really kind of cool scene, and I really enjoyed that. So they've pretty much told the family. This gets us back to Roger. So Roger's kind of shit is supposed to kind of intersect with this. So let's go back. Roger's pretty much the one narrating what's kind of going on during this part, which kind of shows the lack of things that are kind of going on, even though there's not a complete lack of things going on, if that makes sense. It's almost like they needed to fill time or whatnot, but I mean, Roger's mainly by himself for most of the episode. Until we get into other kind of stuff. I say that, but his stuff is so short that he's mostly alone, so of course we just have him kind of talking to himself. Him and Buckley have gotten through the stones, and they're like, alright, we're in the right. Buckley, of course, is having heart issues, kind of detailing teleporter kind of things. I say teleporter kind of things in that going through the stones kind of physically affects you, kind of like a teleporter could potentially, like in Star Trek. That kind of is what I was having when I was like discussing kind of stuff that goes on with the summaries, and also kind of with my mom, who's more kind of versed with it. Like, oh, okay, because this is kind of stuff that is seated here that kind of goes in and becomes important later on with other characters. So he pretty much helps them a little bit. I mean, they can't, it's a little bit hard to kind of showcase that versus telling that, so they kind of have to do a little bit of both. So Roger's like, alright, if Jem got away, he'd probably go to Lollybrock. Buck's like, alright, I'm going to go to Inverness because Cameron would probably have gone there to get a ship to go to America to go get the gold. Alright, cool. So this is where they split up. Roger gets to Lollybrock. This is where we're being like, oh yeah, Jamie's going to the door. This, of course, is where it goes up with the whole Joni kind of stuff and goes off on that thing. Roger finds out that he is there too early and is instead talking to Jamie's father, Brian, who I think is played by the same actor that we'd seen previously. So he pretty much gives him the lowdown that his son's been kidnapped. He meets young Jenny as well. He pretty much is ruminating, like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? What if what's fucking going on? I gotta get my kid back. I failed to protect my family. All that kind of shit. And then we see senior Ian's father and Jenny popping up because they have to go and get Buckley. However, we get this tidbit that there is another ferryman in play in this time as well. So we'll have to look into that because that could be Cameron. However, Buckley's getting more fucked up because of what's going on with his heart, and they then decide to pretty much take him to an herbalist, who is Galis. Oh god, she's back. So we'll see how much this takes up the time of for this season part. We then also end that they get a letter from John, Lord John Grey, that his cousin? Acquaintance of his, Henry, family member, is like shot with like 2 musket balls in his fucking ass and is sending letters out everywhere to get Claire to come to Philadelphia to heal him. Now this is different than kind of the book, where it was more linked up with Henry Christensen, Fergus's son. This sounds like an even worse kind of bit because this dude has been shot and has musket balls in him. It would take a good longer bit for Claire to get there to save his ass than would normally be thought of. It's like, okay, that dude would probably be dead by now, but fuck off, go for it. So, Jamie is staying to pretty much deal with stuff at this point. Claire and Ian go forward to go back to America, and we get a nice kind of parting thing of young Ian and old Ian waving goodbye. Young Ian, of course, wanting to stay with the duty and like send his father off to the next life, whereas old Ian's like, go off and do your own shit, man. It's that hard kind of friction and dichotomy of like, do you stay here and send someone off, or do you follow their wishes and be like, go off and fuck boy? I mean, that's the spirit. That's not exactly what he's like, don't always suppress yourself and fuck yourself over for my happiness. But that's an interesting kind of play because we've seen Ian do that kind of stuff. He has just gone off and fucked off and is like, I'm gonna go help my Uncle Jamie. And it's like, you're doing smuggling and contraband, you dumb fuck. Yeah, it's adventure. And seeing him when he was first introduced to where he's gone through, he's seen some shit, he's like, I just want to be with my dad for the last bits that he needs to be. And he's just like, you know what? You came home. You told me your stories. I want you to continue to do other ones. It's nice. I think those parts were very well executed. It's just the other bits, and especially the editing of jumping back and forth between Roger pretty much coming up to the door of Lollybrock before it's like, it's Brian Fraser. It's like, alright. And then it's Joni. Leary, crazy ass bitch. Ugh. I'm just surprised that like Leary's children are as well adjusted as they are. Now, granted, Marcelly's fucking like, I will kill a motherfucker if I need to. So she's still got the kind of leeriness in her, but she's not just randomly murdering people. Joni's just like, I want to go away and do what I need to do. So they're bowling through. We'll have to see how this kind of works out and how much they're able to adapt if we get a Game of Thrones situation in Season 8 where the book is not out yet and they are adapting it as much as possible. So there's a lot of nuttiness. But I overall enjoyed this and think that most of the positives outweigh most of the negatives of what was kind of going on here. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.